my personal experience with MDS was it was quite a journey. When I was first diagnosed, I had already been diagnosed with two different cancers, and it was so it wasn't the first time I had heard it. So it wasn't the the earth stopping the rotation like it feels the first time you hear you have cancer. It wasn't. It was just kind of okay. Well, I didn't really want to hear it, but um, if you never hear what you need to hear, you'll never you'll never move forward. And if you don't listen, and so I kind of had the let's get it done. And luckily for me, it wasn't something that was real threatening at the moment. So I finished high school, and after my diagnosis, I got incredibly, I wouldn't say disrespectful in any way. I didn't really like silly things. I paid no attention to drama. I didn't care about it. It kind of gave me a new perspective. And so basically my entire senior year of high school was spent. I was the most laid back, easygoing person in the world. I if there was a rule that was just I thought was silly, I just didn't pay any attention. Like there was in my high school, they wanted me to wear ID, and they would tell me to wear an ID, and I'd give them the thumbs up and just keep walking. I I had the worst case of senioritis ever, except I did good in school. I did good. I mean, I still did all of my assignments and everything like that. But if there was something that I didn't think was, I had a changed attitude coming back from being diagnosed again. And so I finished out. I graduated high school, and then flew out to Memphis like 2 weeks later to start receiving treatment, start treatment. And treatment was tough because during the treatment, there were probably 3 or 4 of us that had very similar cancers. I think two or three of us had MDS, and one other guy had AML. And we were all guys, and we kind of hung out whenever we could, especially even when we were in isolation and we couldn't really get out. We would plan our little walk around the floor for about the same time, so we could kind of see each other at a distance and wave and that kind of stuff. And we had St. Jude had video games in the rooms, and we would link up on the video games and on Xbox Live and play that kind of stuff. And then once we got out of kind of isolation, at that point we started hanging out more and that kind of stuff. And there was one of us. We were in rooms side by side, and we started probably a week or two apart. Started treatment a week or two apart, and he passed while we were in treatment, and that was tough. Seeing somebody that has the same thing as you, that's close in age, that's the room apart, that you like to do the same things, you like to talk about the same things. We both loved outdoors and that kind of stuff, loved baseball. And we would talk a lot about, these different things when we could. Obviously, we were very busy going to appointments and that kind of stuff. But it was a tough loss because we were both told the same thing by the same doctor. You have basically a 50% chance of surviving this treatment, and we had a lot of the same symptoms, a lot of the same uh, challenges, a lot of the same. I mean, it was we had very similar cases. Call it the same side effects. We had the same this. It was a great resource to be able to talk to somebody that was in the same situation, same age that you were friends with, that knew exactly everything you were going through, and said, "Yeah, man, I had that last week. It's rough, but you just got to kind of sleep when you can, or that kind of thing." And then that really, I don't know, that made me have a new perspective again on, I guess, life in general. But I had, up until that point, I had, sort of this mentality of, well, why me, kind of that idea. But in that moment, uh, it was more, you know, uh, survivor's remorse sort of deal, where, why did I survive, you know, and it was it was, I'm glad I didn't get I got cancer, and my little brother didn't, and and that was a hard realization, but it was one that I'm glad I came to. Um, it was something that changed my life forever. And after that, it took my immune system forever to recover. It seemed like, I think it was 2 years, and I got um, all kind of bacterial infections, um, countless bladder infections. Um, I got an infection in my intestines, and um, there was a lot of pain, and it hurt. Everything hurt, but I kept going. And then after that, I got VE, which, in the normal population, everybody has it, but it doesn't affect anybody. But in the cancer population, where you have a lot of people with no immune system, I had to be isolated. I had to come in a special door. They had special rooms that only I could go in. They had a special room with a special exit for me to go in and out of at the housing. I was cut off from everything and everyone except in the general public, and that's kind of when kind of uh, I would go out, and I kind of had this nonchalant attitude. I said, you know what, if I get sick, I get sick. It is what it is. And I started going out more, and I like to shoot bow and arrows archery, and I would hang out at the archery shop, the local archery shop, and I would shoot my bow at least 3 times a week, even when, my body hurt, my arms were sore. It was something to do. It was physical activity. It wasn't just sitting on the couch or sitting in bed. And um, that was probably the hardest year of treatment I'd had, and I wasn't even receiving treatment. I mean, I had friends in the cancer community that I would have loved to talk to. You get to talk to people about what you're going through, and they know what you're going through because they're going through it also. And it 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 and I wasn't able to do that. Wasn't able to see them, or I had several friends that passed away during this period while I was in isolation that I hadn't seen for months, um, except at a distance, waving, and and it it was awful. But I finally got rid of everything, and And after I got back out of treatment, I just graduated high school when I went in. This is 4 years later. A lot of my friends are graduating college at this point, um, and I haven't even begun college at the time. And I was thinking, I said, you know what? Every time I'd had treatment before, I jumped right back into high school. You know, that was where I wanted to be. I wanted to be around my friends and I wanted to be a normal kid. And after this treatment, I realized, you know what? I'm not normal. I'm not going to be like anybody else. So I kind of accepted that. I said, you know what? I'm going to take the spring off. Um, I'm going to stay at home and be with my family. And then I had this wild idea and said, you know what? I want to go on a trip. And I was 21, 22 at the time. And I hadn't been to a bar or anything like that because I was in treatment. I was a bubble boy, basically. And so I got back and I spent a lot of time with my family. I saved up some money. And I just up one day, I said, you know what? I'm going on a trip, Mom. And my mom still lived in Memphis. And she still does. And I just called her and I said, Mom, I'm going to go to New Mexico and go turkey hunting. I had made friends in New Mexico. And she said, I mean, there's just terrible silence on the phone. And she was like, well, who's going with you? And I said, oh, I'm going by myself. Kind of this rite of passage journey. And I set off in my car with the tent. And which before treatment, like I said, you never quit doing the things you love. I love to camp. I was a Boy Scout. I love to camp and all this kind of stuff. So I set out with basically a tent, some clothes. You know, I had my stuff for turkey hunting. I had a grill. I had a couple, 2 or 3 things. And I set out and I drove to Memphis in one day. And my mom was just kind of in shock that I was doing this because I've never been this type of person. I was always kind of the homebody type of person. But and she said, well, okay. And I set off and I kind of took my little trip around out by myself all through New Mexico and roamed and had this really great journey and came back refreshed, truly refreshed more than I had been in 7 years of treatment. And that summer, I started back to school, and I still had no clue what I wanted to do, but I wanted to get my basic, you know, English, math, science, literature, that kind of stuff out of the way. And while I was doing this, I kind of decided what I was going to do and went to a local community college, and I wanted to get gunsmithing. And I still work with guns to this day. I had went through a 2-year course, and there was a waiting list, so I used my time wisely, and got took many classes in business and accounting, and so a lot has changed, but you just kind of do everything you love. You just kind of do it in a diminished capacity. I don't go out and like I'm not going to hike up a mountain and try and camp and go, you know, hog wild. But you have to understand your limitations sometimes, and that was one of the greatest realizations I've come to so far.